as luck would have it, the wonderful brake duct system that I set up beforehand is not going to work. As I went to go put this on the car, we had this thing sitting up in here like this, right? Well, I didn't think about it at the time, but that section of the bumper cover is at an angle. And if I would have actually just even looked before I put it on the car, I would have noticed that that angle is not conducive to routing the brake ducts, the tubing. So essentially when I went to put this thing on the car with those ducts in there, the outlet of the duct was pointing straight into the end of the frame rail. So round one goes to the bumper cover. That's not going to work. So just now, I'm like, okay, well, I will extend out the base and create a mounting surface for it. And I could probably make this work, but I'm not really crazy about the giant openings I'd have on the side here, and it would have to sit at a bit of an angle, and I'd really like things to be straight across, the front of the bumper cover. So I'm not really digging this idea either. So now I think the route I'm going to go is we put this back in here. Okay, this is how I had it mounted before, flush to the inside of the bumper cover. If I stand this up so it's perpendicular to the bottom here, that should give me the correct angle and allow the duct there to point straight back like it's supposed to. And that should get me what I need. So what I'm going to have to do is come up in here and build a little, I guess a shelf essentially to come back and mount to the top edge of this here. And then on the bottom, I'll probably use like a little piece of angle iron or angle aluminum on the bottom here. So that will mount to this bottom edge as well as the bottom edge of this and connect everything together. So doing it that way, then I'll have to I can take some aluminum on the corners and kind of close everything off to the inside of the bumper cover. I think that'll be a lot cleaner, it'll look better, and I won't have some big goofy contraption hanging off the front corners of the bumper cover. So that is where I'm at on this. We're gonna jump into round 3 here and see if maybe I can finally get this sorted out and working the way I need it to. That's that. As far as the car goes, I know I haven't done a lot of updates recently with all the packing and moving and things like that. Got, obviously engine still in there. That's the transmission in the back there. That's the 6L90 transmission all bolted up. The cross member under there still. There's that guy. We've got a giant ass hole in the floor because that is where the exhaust is going to be routed through. So it's going to route through here. There's going to be a Y right there, straight through a 3-inch pipe, round muffler, then straight out that hole right there to the bottom of the car, which this is the back door. So there's that hole. It's going to come up to about here, make a 90 and come out right here, that guy, right out in front of the back tire. So that is that, and I've already got the, that's the down and mid pipe I built for that. So that section's all ready to go. All I'll have to do is basically connect a straight pipe and a muffler and a couple of clamps and we'll have a full exhaust. This is the new recover we bent up to cover up giant hole in the floor for the gas tank, because when we got rid of the body mounts, that dropped the body down further, which meant the gas tank would no longer fit underneath the floor. So we had to cut a hole in the floor to clear that. And per the rules, we need to have a cover for the fuel tank. So I'm actually going to put like a big piano hinge on this edge so we can just flip it open when we need to. But you know, I've been doing a lot of little things, getting some of these little bits and pieces painted. Got everything all cleaned up on the inside in terms of like little bolts and studs that were left sticking through there. So the only studs sticking through the firewall anymore are ones that we actually use. I cut off a bunch of bolts that stuck through the bottom of the floor that were way too long. We finally got all of our panels on the firewall. So those are all fabricated and riveted in place. So the firewall's all good to go. We ran the main brake line to the back of the car. What else we got going on? You guys saw the 80TR sway bar install. Here is our power steering setup. It's the Chevy, the LS steering pump. We got, let's see, that's the return, so that's just a hose clamp there. On the pressure side though, we got the appropriate adapter to go from the pressure fitting to an AN line. And that comes over here to the Ford steering box where we got the appropriate AN adapter from the box to an AN fitting there. So, and then this travels down underneath here where we have our little power steering cooler. Okay. And then of course in here in this huge opening we'll have our transmission and oil cooler as well as a radiator behind those. What else? Cage is painted. Interior of the car is going to get painted as well. That'll be that color like the rest of the car on the outside. So yeah, it's all coming together, you know, little bits and pieces, taking bites here and there as we need to or as we can, but we're still making progress. So I will try to keep you guys updated as best I can right now. With the move coming up here in a few weeks, I'm going to be working on this less and less and doing that more and more. So yeah, lots of stuff going on still. So, but I will we'll try to keep you guys up to date on everything. And yeah, that's what we got right now. Back brainstorming, guys. So here's what I've come up with so far. Obviously the inside of the bumper cover, it is right now in the current orientation. So this is the top, that's the bottom towards the ground there. I opened up the hole a little bit, and what I've done is basically, so I've got a little piece of aluminum angle here. I took a long piece of angle and I held it across the back here so I could get a straight line and figure out what angle I needed to get this thing so it was going to sit straight. Okay. Because part of my problem too is that even if I get this angle correct, I still could have issues with this angle. So if I'm sitting in here like this, that points the duct, you know, inward towards the center of the car, okay? As opposed to running straight underneath the frame. So if this thing is sitting at an angle like that, you know, before, here's the frame rail, before it was sitting in the bumper cover and it was like pointing right up into there. Okay, so if I've got it sitting in there, I'm worried that I'm gonna be pointing, even if I get my vertical angle correct, I'm worried I'm gonna be pointing at the radiator support here, which obviously is an issue as well. So I need to get this pointed as straight back as possible, because then it's going to route correctly back to here, and then we can figure out how to route it to the back of the rotor. So my grand scheme now is based on this straight line I've got running across the back of the bumper cover. This is going to be my bottom mount, okay? I'll rivet this to the bottom of the bumper cover. So that'll give me my orientation here. And yes, it's sitting really far back, and I'm going to have a big opening to fill in here and openings on the sides to fill in as well. But I'll have to kind of fabricate those as needed. I just need to get this, I need my starting point first. So we're going to start there, and I'll figure out the rest as I go. Kind of the story of my life, it seems like. But we're getting there, and we'll get it sorted out. All right, so here's the bottom of the bumper cover. Got the first row of rivets in there, which are attached to that little piece of aluminum angle. Okay, so, I mean, as you can see, there's a huge gap there from the top, but this is setting me up so that everything's all nice and straight in there. This is pointing straight back. It's not pointing up. It's not pointing to the inside. So when we mount this on the car, it's just going to shoot straight backwards. We can put our flexible ductwork on there, clamp it on, and then we can route it to the brakes like we need to. So my next step is going to be taking something like this. It may or may not be this piece. And yeah, this piece is going to be too small. So I'm going to have to bend up some more aluminum, and I'm going to run this. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just creating a box. I'm enclosing this on all the sides, the three sides here. So as air comes in, it's going right into the duct. It's not coming in and blowing around, and you know, if it was doing that, there'd be no point in having this, because you need that air to get forced into here and to get run down the ductwork to the brake rotor. So I will continue on this, and we'll get this closed in. And yeah, like I said, we're making progress. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be working on finally, or hopefully finally, finishing up these ducts, brake ducts in the front bumper cover. If you saw the previous videos, you know that my first attempt was a complete failure because the angle of the front bumper cover pushed the outlet of these ducts up into the frame rails. So that was a big oversight on my part. My second attempt my second plan was also not going to work, because I was planning on building out the front of the bumper cover to square things up. That also was not going to work because of the curvature of the bumper cover. You know, so when you look at it from the top, you know, I needed this thing to be square, and then also square here. And it just was going to be a bit too complex for the equipment I have, and B, it would have looked ridiculous. So now plan 384 is this here. So what I've got so far is, I know that the bottom of the bumper cover here is basically flat, or, you know, parallel to the ground for the most part. But the biggest thing is that it gives me a straight shot into or behind the bumper cover. So I've got a piece of aluminum angle here, and I've riveted that to the bottom of the bumper cover and also the base of the vent here. So now the big project is going to be, you know, obviously we got a big gap up here. So I need to go ahead and box all of this in so that the air coming in goes directly into the vent there and down the tube to the brakes. So that'll be the big project today, is turning that bit of aluminum into a boxed section around here. So yeah, and I know some of you are probably going, well, you got that curved area in there, how are you going to figure that out? I'm going to use this little contour gauge here so we can shove that in there and figure out you know, the angle of that, and I can use that to correctly bend my aluminum inside there so I can get a nice flush fit and rivet everything together, and it'll only look a little bit like crap and not completely. So here we go. Okay, I got my two pieces cut out, one for each side. And now the idea is that these guys are going to create three sides of a box, okay? So this is essentially going to go on top here. And what I need to do is I need to bend this. So I've got a flange, then it comes up, bends over, bends down, and another flange. And then also it needs to wrap around the back side of this, go up front, fold up, and that way I've got a way to attach it to the bumper cover and to the vent itself, which it's a lot of bending going on, but this is a better option than trying to create it out of multiple pieces, at least to me, because if I keep this one solid piece, I've got less opportunity for air leaks and air to escape. And this will just be, it'll be more airtight, and it'll do a better job of directing the air into the vent instead of it trying to escape through corners and stuff like that. So now the fun begins, doing a lot of measuring and bending and cutting and bending and all that fun stuff. So this is where it gets really exciting, guys. All right, so I've got this first piece kind of all marked out, okay? And you can see down here, whoop, there's my finger. Okay, this line right here is where I'm gonna make my first bend. This is gonna be the flange that attaches to the perimeter of the duct, okay? So I don't have a bending brake, but I've got an impromptu system here that seems to work pretty good for lighter weight stuff. It's just a couple pieces of angle iron and my bench vise, okay? So now what I'll do is I'll basically take this, and what direction am I going? Okay, I'm going this direction. Okay, I'm gonna bend it that way, and that's gonna give me a nice crisp, relatively crisp 90-degree bend right there. Okay, and that'll be the first bend, and that is going to come over the top and around the back here and rivet in place there. Okay, so that'll be step number one. And then we'll get into making these bends in the corners, these bends down here for the flanges that'll attach to the bottom of the bumper. And then the tricky part will be where this comes forward to the cover. Being that this is a curve, I'll have to trace out on top of the aluminum sheet. I'll have to trace out that contour, and then I'll basically have to cut slits all the way across and bend those up so I can attach to the bumper cover. So it's time consuming, but it'll be a nice fit, and like I said, we won't have any or very minimal air leakage coming through there. All right, so there's the bend. You can see I ended up a little bit off the line there. I wasn't paying attention, but that'll still work for what we need. So that's, like I said, that will mount to the back side of the duct. Now the next bend is going to be these. These are actually going to bend upwards, okay, because those are going to mount to the base of the bumper, right down here, okay. So these will bend up at a 90. This is going to bend down at a 90. This is going to be the vertical side of the ducts. That'll be the top side of the duct, then the other vertical side of the duct, and then the other flange on the bottom of the bumper. So to accomplish that, I'll have to cut. That's why I ran these lines all the way down. I'll cut here, and I'll have to cut out like a triangle shape, okay, 45 degrees there. So when as this bends inward that way, it's going to close that gap here, and we'll end up with just a seam, okay? The same thing over here. So once I do the first one, you guys will see what I'm talking about. So I marked that out, okay? Just snipped it out with my tin snips. And all I did was I just used a speed square, okay? Set it on the flange, marked out 45 degrees both ways, and you know, easy as that. So now when this bends in and down at 90 degrees, all we're going to see is just a line there, because it's going to close that opening up. Okay, so sometimes you got to get a little creative here. Because of the depth of this, I can't get it, you know, in the jaws of the vise because it's too deep there. So I just had to extend my angle iron out a little further, use a clamp to make sure everything stays clamped together. And then you can see our little 45 degree cutout there. But I like to use a hammer, not to beat it into submission, but just little taps like this. If you just do it with your hands, a lot of times you get kind of a rounded corner, but a hammer helps to make the angle a little sharper. And you don't want to beat the hell out of it, because then you end up with all these deep dents in there. I mean, there's still going to be some, but all I'm doing is putting pressure on this and then just kind of letting the hammer do the work. So now we have okay, so there we got our, our corner closed up there. I'm going to it's sitting at a 90. It'll be nice and tight there. And I'll probably end up putting some sort of seam sealer or whatever in these corners and edges where it connects to the bumper, just to make sure everything is properly sealed up. But, you know, pretty good fit there. So now I'm going to do the same thing here. And then after I get those done, I'll come back and I'll bend these upwards. And then we can start figuring out the contour here and on these, etc., to get that mounted inside the bumper. All right, some baby steps here. So I've been using my contour gauge here, basically just pushing it up on the inside there. And I measured distance from here to the inside of the bumper cover to give me my start and finish reference points. And then I just basically created that contour along the top here. And then did the same thing down the side. Okay. So all of this stuff in front of those red lines is going to get cut off. Okay, and this side I'm going to have to play with this side and kind of do test fit cut sort of stuff, because there's not really much there to get a contour gauge into and figure out my angle. Should be pretty similar to this side, but I know it's not going to be quite the same. So now the slightly nerve-wracking part of actually cutting this, because if I'm wrong, I just made all that and did all that work for nothing. So one other thing I got to do is, so this is basically a reference for the inside of the bumper cover here, okay? I need to go 1 inch out, so I have an actual flange to mount this to the bumper cover. Okay, so I'm going to cut out 1 inch from there, and then what I'm going to do is just make some slices in that flange. That way I can bend it up and match the inside of the bumper cover. If I tried just bending up a curve there, that doesn't work. Okay, you're not going to get, you're going to end up with a straight line and not a curve. So here we go. I'll show you guys what happens here. Could be good, could be bad. All right, so here's what we got now. Whole bunch of little slices in this. So now each individual tab I can bend up and still retain the majority of that curvature. Grab something to bend that with. So I want to get as much width in there as I can. So when I bend these, I want to try to keep the bend as perpendicular to the line as possible. So basically like that. Straighten it out a bit. Okay, so that's what we're going to end up with. Is a whole bunch of these bent up all the way around the perimeter of this thing. So now these will get riveted to the inside of the bumper cover. I'm not going to rivet every single one, but we'll probably do like half, a third of them, something like that, enough to keep it in place. So I'm going to do that next, and then hopefully it fits. All right, so here we are. This is more or less the finished product here, okay? So you can see how everything fits together there. I've got to fine tune the tabs a bit to get up against the bumper a little better. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. A little look from the inside here. So you can see as the air comes in there, she's just gonna get slammed right into the vent, into the duct. And there really isn't anywhere for it to go, except for through there. So yeah, I'll have a little bit of that'll close it back there. But I'll have a little bit of caulking to do, or sealing to do around a couple spots. So also the previous holes I had drilled in the cover, naturally they don't line up with anything that I just made. So I'm gonna have to go back and fill those in. I'll probably use that 2-part epoxy again. That stuff worked pretty good to fill the holes, like the ones I did over here, where the license plate was and stuff. So I am not going to rivet this in place yet. I need to make the box for the other side as well. But I got to go get some sort of sealant or something that'll be appropriate for this. And then probably need to get some bigger rivets too, because the ones I got are pretty small. And with the amount of air that's going to be coming in there, I don't want this thing tearing itself apart. So a couple things I got to pick up, but otherwise, this is essentially going to be the finished product. So I'm going to cut this video off here, and I'll make like a part 3 video, I guess, of when I get the rest of the sealant and the rivets I need, once I put it all together for the final time. So thanks for watching, guys.